Okay guys, so this is my final setup. I'll probably grab the camera in a second off this mount just to show you. I just got done printing my final copies and well, this is where we ended up. As you can see, my mess over here, and I'll even pan over, I'm not afraid. I have been busy. So yeah, this is my final setup here. Let me grab the camera out of here and I'll kind of go over it with you. Okay, so we have our 5015 fan here for parts cooling. Now I'll pull this forward because I have my final prints here and show you what I ended up with. Okay, so I decided to make this in a rectangle. Alright, and that's because our heater block, as you can see there, is a rectangle. So I wanted something that would fit kind of snug around it. This is my final deal here. It slips right into that fan there. I don't know if you can see this, but in this I have the main blower vent here going straight into it. My final revision, I skewed it off to the side, and I'll show you why. So we got our little LED here. It's nice that this stuff is all open now. But I found that the LED it does shine in here, and you can get a little view of what's going on in there. But I found most of it was shining right onto this tube. So I decided to skew that over so that we could get a little more of that light transmitted through here into the bottom, and we can see things a little bit better. So that's that. Have lots of little holes here going all the way around. This print didn't come out so well, so I may actually reprint this. You can see a little gap, I think, right about there. But all of these are angled at about 15 degrees. Okay, so they're not going to be shooting straight. They're going to be slightly angled down. That way they can, they can hopefully not cool down the nozzle. The air, I put my finger up underneath here after I installed it, and I could feel the air flow just below the nozzle there, which is perfect, exactly where I wanted it. Okay, so then we have our mount here, which goes to my plate, which I know you guys have seen, so I'll leave that one alone. I didn't make any changes there. I figured I'd make all the changes to the parts that are a lot easier to replace. So there is my final copy of that. Okay, so I left a groove here for a nut. That's because the fan is going to mount here. As you can see, these two bolts here, and they are nutted on the other side. Let's see if we can get a good view of that. Maybe. Yeah, there you go. So, put nuts on the back side. That way you can get them nice and tight. I just take a little, pair of needle nose, grab onto the nut, make sure these are nice and tight so this fan isn't going anywhere. The spacing here is exactly the spacing of between here and here. I found the spec sheet for this fan. And I left it slightly adjustable, even though it looks like this pretty much sits right in the middle of the groove. And this sits just a little bit below the top of the groove. I guess this little channel I put in here is probably going to be slightly pointless, unfortunately. But you know what? It looks fine, and it's not hurting the structural integrity of this at all, so I don't see no reason to change it. I shortened the width of this, so from the bottom to the top here. Just so we could get a little bit more clearance for this fan. Okay, so as you can see, that's pretty much butted up right against it. However, the plate has a slight gap, and that's because apparently I made this a little bit fatter. So I went ahead and cut that down, so it's not so big. Now, the main advantage I have here of this fan is that it's blowing straight into it. Okay, let's see, where's my fan here? Okay, so I modeled this pretty close to the fan that came with it. Okay, so you can see there's definitely some similarity there. However, this is my own deal. So obviously we wanted a 40-20 fan in there. So this was a 30 millimeter fan. We bumped it up to a 40 because that's what's on the machine. And tried to leave everything as wide open as I could. Even added this little groove here to fit into, I don't know if you can see that there, but there's a groove right there. It sits right in the channel to hold it in place so it can't slide up and down, even though with how tight this clamps on there, it's really going nowhere even without that channel. It's actually even a little bit of a pain to pull the thing back out, but that's a good thing. Don't really need to be pulling this in and out. However, this one's made of PLA. As everybody who watches my channel knows, I do a lot of PETG, and I thought PETG was a little bit better for this setup, being that it's a hot end, and especially because that gets really close to the heater block. I haven't seen any issue with it so far. I ran all of these prints off with that on there, and I didn't have an issue. Slight bit of stringing, but you know what? You can see there's a couple of hairs there. No big deal though. Nothing that wouldn't clean up very easily. See, there's a couple of zits in there. So obviously I got a few things, but they knock right out. I mainly did this so I could get my retractions back. Unfortunately, with this setup, I was having a heat creep problem, and everything that I've printed out up to date has had that same issue. And that's why I wanted this to come straight on to the fins here. So this goes straight through. As you can see, it's a nice straight shot. It's wide open. The best part is it doesn't block the lower fins, so they can get all the air that they need. I did notice that there's still a little bit of air backflow here. So while this is running, if I stick my fingers here, it almost feels like it's blowing that way. There was even a moment where I thought, well, wait a minute, do I have that fan in backwards? So I took it off, I checked it out. It is definitely blowing in the right direction. I think there was an arrow on it somewhere too, but I don't remember where exactly. But that's the thing with so many fins back here, and there's, I think, a 1.5 millimeter gap between these. Unfortunately, that doesn't leave enough opening for that fan to blow freely through it. I kind of wish that it could, because that's where you get your best cooling, but unfortunately, that doesn't work. So I guess I'll have to thank the guys on Thingiverse for their poor designs, because they led to my good designs. My one last once over so you guys can see the whole thing, and so far so good, guys. I have like I said, I printed all these parts. Unfortunately, this is a PLA piece and this is a PLA piece. I'm going to be replacing all of it with this stuff, and we're going to have a nice good working unit. I got tons of cooling here, exactly where it needs to be. And I have tons of cooling here, or here, exactly where it needs to be. Everything's nice and tight, no rattles, no squeaks, no nothing. I guess that about does it for this episode. I'll probably just finish off with this. So we have the 2 bolts here holding this fan on. We have the 4 bolts here holding that fan on to that. we have this vent that just clips right into that. It's a nice tight fit. We have this mount, which bolts directly to my plate back here, and there's 2 bolts that hold that in place. Again, they're on my plate. There's a screw here, a screw here. Oh, I guess you can't see the bottom screws anymore, but there are 2 screws back here where the original hot end bolted down. On the back side, we have, I don't know if I can get this in here, but there's a lip here that sits over and kind of hugs the plate. And there are 2 nuts that go from the back side of this plate into this block here that attach the 2 bolts that hold this on. And then these 2 pieces come together and they pretty much they grab really tightly on that hot end, and there is literally no movement there. So, you guys want to give my design here a try? I will put links below, and you can tell me what you think. Alright guys, take care. Thank you for stopping at Gary's place, where you're always welcome. Oh, sorry about the fingers. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you like my designs here, please let me know in the comments below, and happy printing.